Welcome to Inspire and Move, the show that inspires you to create, connect, and grow. I'm going to bring you meaningful conversations, aha moments, and all the motivation you need to up-level every part of your life. I'm Ali Aruda, founder of Inspire and Move, and your personal hype girl. I've gone from fashion school to celebrity stylist to corporate marketing to brick-and-mortar entrepreneurship with my husband, each time learning incredible lessons how to pivot, reimagine, and implement the steps to become successful. I'm passionate about inspiring others to live their best life, a life of joy. We have the power to design a life that we love, because life is too short not to. The best part is that you weren't meant to do this alone. If you feel like you are meant for more, let me ride shotgun with you, and together, let's get you to where you want to go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Inspire and Move podcast. And I am so excited for today's guest because we actually get to spend a lot of time together on a weekly basis, but we got to connect offline outside of the rooms that we are in together and have a nice quality 1 hour call together. And I learned something new about this wonderful woman. So first of all, Morgan, welcome to the show.
I am very, very glad to be here.
And this is actually a dual show experience here because this episode is going to be on Morgan's show and my show. So we love the efficiency of that.
Yeah, I got super excited. I threw up in our mutual platform, hey, anybody want to do a podcast swap? And you volunteered. And I was literally giddy. I think I was in the grocery store and I got the message and I'm like, yay! I was very excited. So thank you.
Well, and I feel like our worlds have a lot of support for one another, which we're obviously going to dive into. But we need to start with the thing that I have been thinking about since we chatted last week. And I would really just like to rewind back to when you were a career stripper.
Girl, where do you want me to start? Like the very beginning?
Well, I know that you and I really got to dive into that a little bit last week together. But what was that decision when you made that intentional choice to, figure out, okay, I need to make some money or I'm looking to make a move for my job or how I'm going to generate income? How did that drop into your mind?
Absolutely. There were some seeds that were planted. So when I went to school, I got my degree in psychology. And then I tried law school for a short time. It wasn't for me. And I got accepted into the School of Social Work and it wasn't for me. But I was trying to find my place to add value in the community and be of value, I guess. And I was in my young 20s, mid-ish 20s maybe. And I was in some kind of public policy workshop. And I swear this is going somewhere. And the gentleman, and again, I'm pretty naive, small town Wisconsin girl at this point, living in the quote unquote big city of Minneapolis. And this gentleman was like, oh, we should go for lunch sometime. Well, now I'm old enough to know that he was probably, flirting with me. And we were talking about something, and out of nowhere, he was like, you're good looking. I bet you can dance. I actually run some girls that I get them features at different clubs. And all you got to do is go in and you dance and you make some money and you leave. And I am, again, teenager of the 90s. I don't know what he's talking about. I'm like, what? It didn't even cross my mind. I didn't know. It wasn't that I didn't know strip clubs existed. It wouldn't have crossed my mind to be in my world. And I also, as the feminist that I am, immediately was like, the fuck you will. If I'm going to dance, I'm doing it myself. And I never even thought about it. But then when he said that, I thought, could I do that? And then I thought, and if I did, I'll be goddamn if a man is going to run me, I would do it myself and make my own money. So that was the first seed that was planted. The second thing was I was dating a guy that asked me to give him a lap dance. And I was like, but I don't know if I know how to do that. And again, hadn't seen it on TV and prior to the internet. I mean, I didn't know how to give a lap dance. And I'm the kind of person where it's like, I have to admit, I don't necessarily just jump into things. I like to do a little research. I like to learn. I like to take a class or read a book. I want to feel like I have some skills before I do something. And so I thought, and then, how am I going to learn how to do this? And out of nowhere, I was driving down Hennepin Avenue in uptown Minneapolis. And there was a billboard and it was exposed brick, a pair of high heel stilettos, and it said Flex Appeal Studios. And I thought, what's that? And so I called the number and I was like, do you have to be a stripper to take these classes? And she's like, no, it's exotic dance for the everyday woman. Come to find out, I go take my first lap dance class. I'm the only student there. She was like fairly brand new to the area and creating this concept. And it turned into an amazing studio, and it was very busy and popular and all the things. So anyway, I show up for this lap dance class. I'm the only person there. I have this smoking hot teacher. We're in this like studio with the mirrors, floor to ceiling, these poles that were like 20 feet high. It was gorgeous in there. And she taught me how to walk in the shoes and how to dance. And then she's like, okay, well, now you're going to give me a lap dance. And I was like, what? Like, I've never been that close to a girl before. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really, I was like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, just go ahead. And so I danced for her. And apparently I was good enough. She asked me to teach at that studio. So
Good girl.
yeah, I became a lap dance instructor, exotic dance, and pole dance, which are all, in my mind, very separate things. And then it came time to go to graduate school because it was like, well, what am I going to do with my life? I'm going to need to get a higher degree. I think I know finally what I want to do. And I wanted to get my master's in marriage and family therapy. And I thought, I want to go to school full time. What could I do and make the most amount of money in the least amount of time? And for me, it was dancing. And so I went to the woman who owned the studio, and I knew she had been a dancer, a single mom raising 3 kids, dancing in Vegas and then LA, and moved to Minneapolis where her family was from, and opened this beautiful studio. And so I went to her and I was like, so can you help me get a job? And she's like, Morgan, I would never encourage a woman to get into the business. And if you want to, I will help you. And so she hooked me up with this gentleman named Vinny from New York City. So Vinny was running the one of the better strip clubs in Minneapolis. And, I didn't know what to expect. I mean, you don't bring your resume, right?
Did you just walk
I'm
in
like,
and,
okay.
wear a hot outfit and be like, hi, I'm here for maybe a job? Like, I just need a couple more details.
Yes, exactly. So I was like, okay. And I'm like brokety broken these days. I'm 26 years old. I've been working like at homeless youth drop-in centers and restaurants. I'm barely making it. And I thought, okay, so what should I do? I got to buy a little dress. So I got a dress, and in my head, I remember exactly, it was a black dress with some like reddish flowers on it, cute, cinched on the side. So it was real tight and form-fitting. And I went in and I was like, hey, I'm Morgan. Maria called you about me, and I just was hoping I could talk to you about working here. And he looked at me and he goes, yeah, she called me. She said you were great. You're gorgeous. You're hired. Do you want to start tonight? And it was a Wednesday night. And I was like, oh, well, actually, I was thinking Friday because I didn't have shoes yet. I didn't have like an outfit because I didn't know if I was actually going to get hired. And so that Friday night, 2 days later, was my first night dancing. So, and I would say for me, I never, ever, ever had any hesitation about getting on stage. I love being on stage. I am an attention whore at heart, and I loved performing. It was the selling part that I had to learn, because you are selling yourself all night long. You're basically cold calling, and you also have to stand a ton of rejection. Like, you have no idea how many people are not interested. And you have to just keep your spirits up and keep going and really build a value proposition so that people want to purchase your goods, if you will.
It's just so interesting because there's actually such a crossover to the world of entrepreneurship, but we aren't going there yet because I still have questions. So
go ahead.
it's Friday night. It is your first shift. What did you do? Because obviously you had probably practiced in the shoes at Maria's studio.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you had that confidence already set to go. Do you remember how much you spent on those shoes?
God, back then, this was 2006 I started dancing. And so I was 26 years old, which, by the way, is old, quote unquote, for that industry. Most girls get in when they're 18, 19, 20 years old. So I was like already older than a lot of the girls. And I remember I have a friend who has since passed. He drove a town car, and he always drove the night shift. So he drove a lot of dancers home at night. And he even said to me, Morgan, don't you think you're a little old to be getting into this industry? And I was like, no, I just didn't see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I danced until I was 39 years old. So it's not like, I definitely, I was in it for a long time. But anyway, so first night, the shoes were probably back then, I want to say, and they were basic. Like, you could spend like $250 on a pair of stripper heels. So PS, my favorite company, if you're ever looking, pleasershoes.com. In my opinion, the best stripper shoes out there. You do not dance in normal high heels. There is a very specific shoe that you wear to be on stage. It's designed a certain way. The bottom gripper is a certain thing. So they're not shoes that you would buy to wear in the street, and you would never wear your street shoes on stage. So they're very specific shoes. And the ones that are like full rhinestones, gorgeous, can be like upwards of $250. The ones I probably bought, they were these black strappy like beginner heels, and they were like maybe $45, $55 if I remember correctly. And I think I wore like go ahead.
What? I was just saying, I must be thinking of like the bikini suits that you wear for fitness competitions that are like 1,000 plus. So that's probably what I was thinking about. But okay,
no, and even our outfits. Our outfits. Okay, so there were two places you got outfits. You got them from the House Mom, or you got them from the stripper store on Lake Street. So, well, that's where I went. So, or I would go to catdancers.com with a Z. So that's where I got some of my cute dresses. So I would order stuff online. I would go to the stripper store. I called it. It was like this teeny little store that had shoes and costumes and dresses and like 2-piece outfits. And they weren't crazy overpriced. So they were maybe, an outfit may or may not cost you anywhere from $50 to $100, depending. Shoes, again, between like $50 and $100, depending. And then the house mom. So every strip club has a house mom.
Okay.
And so a house mom is basically wherever the locker room is, she sets up shop in the locker room for the girls. And so she's often doing makeup, selling panties, selling shoes, selling outfits. They have a third-party vendor that makes dresses, and then they'll have a bunch of dresses. So like when I worked in Miami, we would have this woman would come in and she had like a full rack of new outfits every weekend. And so you could have a new outfit. And they always had extra panties in case you like lost them or they're old or whatever. But the house mom was also like the therapist. I mean, there were girls that would come in and they'd be crying about something or mad at some other dancer. And so she'd like have to talk people off the ledge. And so the house mom was really like she was like this like all-inclusive person that was always in the locker room with the girls.
So many hats. Okay, do you remember what song? Like, did you have a signature song that when it would come on, you're like, you know what? Fuck yeah, I am like the hottest stripper and I'm going to make so much money tonight. What was your song?
Yes. So I will say when I lived in Minneapolis, there was a lot more song control. So because the clubs were smaller and the girls, we would maybe be working with like 20 girls. So when I went on stage, I was the only one on stage. And so I would pick what genre of music I wanted. And if I was friendly with the DJ, they'd be even more appeasing, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so I would go onto stage and I often danced to either house music or R&B. So it was like kind of switch it up. And then when I moved to Miami, now you're talking 9 stages, 10,000 square feet, 150 girls, so the DJ doesn't care about your music preferences. That being said, I was very friendly with one of the DJs, and he always played me 2 songs that I wanted to hear. And one is a remix of a Nirvana song, and the other one is Pour It Up by Rihanna. And I used to listen to Pour It Up by Rihanna all the way to work because it was like, it just got me in my money mindset and my like go girl mindset. So that was my song.
If 2026 is the year you stop playing small in your business, listen up. This is for you. If you are a business owner making between $25K and $500K and you're ready for real growth, not just more information, the Mentor Collective Mastermind is for you. You'll be coached by Chris and Lori Harder, supported by a team of expert coaches, and guided every step of the way with built-in accountability from yours truly and Matt as your accountability coaches. This isn't just strategy, it's mentorship, structure, and a powerful community of entrepreneurs scaling together. If you're ready to elevate your income, your impact, and your life and circle in 2026, apply for the Mentor Collective Mastermind today. Oh my God, I love this. Okay, is it fair to say tip? Like that's how you're getting paid?
Yes. So we are independent contractors. We are technically not employees of the club. So there was no tax, you're not going to get a W-2. There's no benefits. So yeah, it was all.
So what was the most amount or like the largest transaction, let's call it, that you received from a client?
I think it was over $2,000. That's what I can think. I will say this. So when you said tip, there 2 things came to mind. One of my better nights was $2,500. And I was the kind of dancer that didn't necessarily want to find one whale, as we call them. Not some of the girls, they wanted to find like a whale and just bleed him dry. I personally didn't want to spend that much time with people.
Yeah.
So I actually worked in quantity over like trying to just suck someone dry from their money. Because the drunker they got, then the more annoying they got. And like, now I got to spend time with this person for hours. Like, I didn't love it unless I liked the person a lot. I did have one customer that later in my life became a very good friend, and we are still friends to this day. He's actually from Canada. And yes, he is. And goes back and forth now that he's retired. And he often would come in and spend $2,000, once a month, and we would just sit and talk, and we drink champagne, and sometimes I would nod off, and we were just friends, and it wasn't there was no sex involved. It was just and I never worked in clubs that allowed sex anyway. But anyway, some girls, I say that because some girls would get repeat customers they would come in and spend time with them in the club and pay them with the promise that they would have sex with them outside the club. So there were girls that did that kind of stuff. I never did that. So I like to work the room. I'm like, let me be a social butterfly. I'm going to hit everybody. Boom, 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 boom. But when you say best tip, I remember this gentleman came in, and my buddy who was driving that town car, he goes, I met this guy. He's super shy. He's such a gentleman. He's got money. I told him to come to the club tonight, ask for you, look out for him. And I'm like, you got it. And so this gentleman came in, and he was very shy, super sweet, barely talked. And I remember when he realized it was me that he was looking for, and I happened to be on stage at that time when he came in, he came over to me and sat down and just look up at the stage, and he would just hand $100 bills. And then I danced a little bit more, and then he'd put another 100 down. And then I danced a little more, and he put another 100 down. And I was like, God damn, like this guy's got, like he didn't,
guy?
yeah, he wasn't like demanding. He didn't want me to shove my boobs in his face. Like, he was just such a gentleman. And so that was one time that I really remembered. And I don't even think I gave him lap dances. I think every time I got on stage, he would just come over and he would just tip me really well. And I was like, wow. And then my other favorite tip of all time, that was in Minneapolis when I danced in Miami area. There was a night that there was some kind of sports thing going on, and a bunch of Boston people were down. And I'll tell you what, Boston people want to party. They spend money, they're funny, and they have fun. Like, I can't ever say anything bad about Boston gentlemen. And I came on stage, and I think my song Pour It Up was probably on. And mind you, Miami was a fully nude club. Up in Minneapolis, topless only. So in Miami, it's fully nude. And I played the crowd.
Like, you were dancing full birthday suit.
Girl, a lot of people have seen my vulva. Yes. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. Yes. So I love being naked. I already told you. Like, yeah. I love I'm just like, woo, let's go. So I think it's delightful. I think women are gorgeous, and there's all kinds of different ones, and it's just, it's so fun. But anyway, and at this time I had very large implants. So my boobs were huge, and I had a good time with them. We made a lot of money. We had a lot of fun. And I was interacting on stage with these like 5-ish dudes from Boston, and the place is packed. Like, this club is huge, like 2,000 guests at a time, kind of. It was huge. Oh my God. And I'm on stage, and I'm giving them a little show, and I'm doing all the things, and they just pour dollars on me. And I mean, to the point where I'm almost like drowning in it. It was $800 in ones after 2 songs. And I was like, thank you, Boston gentlemen. So,
and you have nothing to even stuff these in. You don't even have a G-string elastic to help you carry these bills.
So great question, Allie. So when you get off stage, there's a lot of bouncers, right? And there's guys always walking around. They have champagne buckets. So when you get off stage, so basically what happens is the transition's pretty seamless. So there's 2 girls on stage, on the main stage. Second song, they switch poles, because there were 2 poles at this club. And you kind of gathered your money and moved to the other side of the stage when the other girl, you kind of switched. Well, then the next 2 girls come up. So you got to gather all your money. And while they're starting their sets, the 2 girls that are getting off, the bouncers bring over a champagne bucket, and you put all your money in there, and then you go in the back and you put it all neatly, and then they run it through the cash machine and give you big bills. So
okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I could have 100 more. Like you're talking about 800 ones.
So you
I
can
have
ask me
800
anything you
questions.
want. You want best night, worst night. So my worst night ever was $27. I
Oh,
worked an 8-hour shift. I was living in Minneapolis. It was so slow. And I remember the girls. So when I danced in Minneapolis, my name was Phoenix. And so um
love it.
I yeah, I have a phoenix tattooed on my back, which came before the stripper name. So, but anyway, when they told me what was my stage name, I was like, Phoenix. So I went with Phoenix. Anyway, so I was dancing in Minneapolis. It was such a slow night. And I remember I went up to the locker room where the girls were at, and they were all kind of, on their phone and bored or eating something or whatever. And they're like, "How is it down there?" And I was like, "It is so slow. Nobody's doing anything." And they're like, "Well, if you're not making money, nobody's making money." Because they knew I would go to every motherfucker, because it was like, you never knew who was going to say yes. And maybe the guy was like, well, I might as well say yes. There's nothing else going on. So I was very tenacious in my sales approach, if you will.
I love it. Okay, well, I want to take this over to because I know now you are an empowerment coach, and
Yes.
you and I again offline we chatted a lot. Actually, we just sort of hit the surface of past experiences for both of us in terms of our relationship with our bodies and things
Yeah.
that we've gone through as children. So, or young women. How did that feel like being in that profession? And had you been really confident up till, being 26 and then being able to step on stage, whether you were able to wear a little tiny outfit or you were fully nude? What was your relationship like at that point with your body? And how has that maybe changed over the years?
Sure. A light switch. It was a light switch. And I definitely want to hear from you, like when you started being conscious of your body and feeling like there were certain expectations. I know for me growing up, I'm a teenager of the 90s. We didn't have internet, and we had 17 magazine. One of my favorite movies was Meet Joe Black, and the main female character was very, very thin. And for me, so I was just like, oh, I want to look like that. I want to be super skinny. My mom, genetically, she's super tall, long legs. Like I'm over here with the 25-inch inseam, and she's got 38 inches. She was always just perfect to me. And I was like, why am I not tall and skinny? Because I was like short, and then I started getting buns and boobs, and I'm like, I want to be like my mom. So I was already starting to compare myself to what I saw in magazines, movies, even my mom. Not that it was any fault of hers. I mean, she was just genetically tall and lean, and I was not. I got the curvy paternal side of my family. And so I was very critical of my body as I developed, because I was like, why are my boobs getting bigger? And why am I so curvy? And why am I only 5'3"? And, like I hated my body. And, again, no social media back then. And just the influence of magazines and the messaging you get that you can't be skinny enough. And then I had a hideous eating disorder I started at just into 19 that lasted until I started dancing, because I just thought skinny, skinny, skinny. And I was telling somebody recently, what's crazy pants is when I was my skinniest, like right now I'm probably a buck 30, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel very confident. It's not perfect, and I'm good with it. Like I still feel I'm holding on to muscle mass despite being in my mid 40s, and I'm doing what I'm doing. That being said, my lowest was 95 pounds.
Oh, like you could blow over on a windy day.
I was skinny, and I saw pictures of myself from the senior prom, and I thought, oh dear, I am pretty skinny. And
Mm.
at the time, women, young girls, were asking me, oh my God, Morgan, you look so good. What are you doing? Boys were asking my brother if I was terminally ill.
Isn't that
So it was
crazy?
like I was trying to be skinny for what? Why? I was wasting away, and I didn't even know why. And then my parents were like, well, you can't go to college unless you get this together, because we're not going to send you off to another state and you're starving yourself to death. And I was like, no, no, I promise I'll eat. Well, then it swung into binge eating, because I just didn't, I was so messed up with what was good and bad, and what I could eat and what I shouldn't eat. And it was bananas mindset, horrible habits, didn't even know how to eat healthy. And so then I just went off the other end, and I picked up a bunch of weight, and I was 145 pounds at my heaviest, which again isn't huge, but it was all chunky monkey Ben and Jerry's ice cream. This was
Yeah.
not muscle mass.
No,
And I
chunky
was,
monkey, that'll get you.
and all, every single day, sometimes twice a day, but I was also depressed. It was a whole thing. So I will say all that to say, I kind of balanced out a little bit once I was in my 20s and I was on my own. I was starting to try to learn how to eat healthy and whatever. Still not great. When I started dancing, in my mind, I thought I had to look like a Playboy model. So I was like, yikes. Okay, so if I'm going to do this, I got to get in shape. I got to really get ready for this. If I'm really going to do this job, and I'll say now I'm probably in better physical shape than I was then. I don't have probably the same endurance or strength, but I am just at a balance because I just know what's healthy and feels good and movement that makes me feel good. Whereas back then I was so strict and weird about workouts and on and off and whatever. When I started dancing, and I'm not even kidding, it was almost instantaneous. One of my first nights, there was a girl working with me. She went by the stage name Violet. She was very small breasted, so curvy in the hips, this like wavy brown hair. And I remember her walking away from me to go to a VIP room with a customer. And I thought, so this has nothing to do with body size, body shape, or being skinny. Confidence is how you carry yourself, your attitude about yourself, and knowing that you are beautiful and sexy and desirable. It has nothing, it's what you decided is not what someone else is telling me it is. And I was like, mind blown. It was like a light switch. And most people be like, were you more body conscious? You're on there naked, you're wearing these teeny tiny outfits. It was like night and day. Just, it broke the paradigm that I had been living with for years and years. It was bananas.
Wow, because that was a big question I had for you coming into this conversation was there a moment where you had that light bulb go off to change your perspective when it comes to our relationship with our body or body image as a whole? And was that perhaps a moment where a seed could have been planted for what you are now doing and how you are supporting women as an empowerment coach?
Absolutely. Because I know how exhausting it was for me to constantly say mean things to myself, think mean things, criticize myself, question myself, even punish myself. Like I ate too much yesterday, so I'm going to eat nothing today and I'm going to work out this many hours. And it was exhausting. And I also wasn't present in my own life. I was so in my head counting calories, keeping track of everything on a yellow note legal pad.
Yeah.
And it was exhausting to be in my own body and in my own head. And when I was set free, I was like, I want every woman to feel this and know this and to realize that, yes, you want to feel attractive, but whatever this perfection thing you're chasing, according to who? Like, who says that that's the ideal? Because some guys like short hair, some they like long hair. I mean, I had women tell me when I was teaching dance, I used to do a lot of bachelorette parties on the weekend and stuff, and it'd be an hour-long class. I'd teach them like 2 spins, and they were thrilled, and then they'd go on their way and party the rest of the evening in Minneapolis. And multiple times I'd have women be like, well, do you wear a wig? And I'm like, wait, why? And they're like, well, because your hair's short. I was like, there are men that like short hair. Yeah. And I used to have pixie short hair sometimes, and they'd be like, sometimes guys would come in the club and be like, where's the girl that looks like Pink? So, but again, it goes back to what women think men want, and they're running their decisions off of that. If you want to cut your hair, girl, cut your hair. Like, and so I think that a lot of times women were raised to need to feel desirable to men and attractive to men instead of to ourselves. And then the right man will be attracted to you. That it's not that you're trying to fulfill some general thing that everybody says you're supposed to be. You go do you, feel confident being you, and then the right man will be attracted to you for that. Like, it's the big paradigm shift that I wish I could just grab any woman that's struggling by the shoulders and give her a big hug and then say, let's get to work. So.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. That's my next question is what does it look like for someone to work with you? Like, do you have like an ideal avatar of someone that would recognize that, okay, you know what, I'm ready to seek support. And then how do you start getting to work? What is that first step?
Sure. Let's do it with you. So let's say someone says, oh my God, I see a picture of myself and I'm like, well, my arms look fat, or, oh my God, I should have put my chin out more because I can see it. It looks like I have a double chin. Like there's just all this criticism, talk, chatter, and no one else has seen it, but you, of course, see all the bad
Oh, I
things.
can see everything. I see everything.
You're like, filter. See, and yeah, and I guess I don't filter because I think, well, when you do see me in real life, you're gonna be like, huh, it looks a lot different. So but anyway, so for me it would be going back. Like, I would say, because I was trained as a therapist, there's some questions I would ask. And the first one would be, like, for you, growing up, who was Allie? Who was little Allie when she first realized that she was a girl? Because I think well, I shouldn't even say a girl. I should say you're attracting the male species. Because there's a point, even when you're a little girl, you're like, wait a second, still creepy. I'm not saying it's good or bad. And you start to realize that the male gaze is starting to take notice. And so I would ask, like, for you growing up, I mean, you're gorgeous Barbie over here running around. You look at your Instagram. My favorite one is like where you said work with me or something, like what it's like to work with you. And I'm looking at you and I'm like, you are just this perfect, beautiful Barbie. I would have played with you when I was a little girl and brushed your beautiful hair and put all these cute outfits on you.
I would have loved that.
But anyway, so I would ask, like, for you, like, when was it first realizing that you were an attractive woman and that you had these qualities that were attracting attention? Do you remember when that was?
It's funny, in grade 8, and I actually went to an all-girls school, so my awareness of that would be very different than perhaps someone who's in a co-ed, whether it's a public school, private school, but just being able to go to school with boys. I went to a private all-girls school since grade 3, all the way to grade 12, and then I went to fashion school, which is basically also all girls or guys that were not interested in me.
Yeah,
so,
right.
No problem. My dad probably loved it secretly. So
yeah.
It was around like grade 8 where I actually almost had like this awkward phase because I was starting to get my growth spurt and I lost a lot of weight because of my body recomping itself in a different way by going upwards and then losing some baby fat. And I was active in terms of dance and sports for a bit, but ultimately it was a lot of dance. And I remember the chatter of like, what is she doing? Does she have an eating disorder? Is she anorexic? Also, it's an all-girls school. So, of course, there's lots of chatter, especially when it comes to another female's body changing. But I would say it would be around like that, grade 8, the transition from grade 8 to grade 9, where it was like awkward, like this little metamorphosis. And then by grade 9 to realize that, although then I had braces for like 3 years, and that does not really help. I mean, some people really, I think I rocked them as best I could, but braces don't make you feel sexy.
No.
If someone does feel sexy with braces, I love that for them, but I did not feel hot.
No, fortunately, I was younger with those. Those happened. I only needed them for a year, and for me, it was fun at the time because it was like, "Yay, I get to pick colors every week." So that was
elastics.
And being in an all-girls school, and you're a little bit younger than me by what, 5 years, right? So
yeah,
I don't know,
40.
like what were you prescribing to? What were you consuming, whether it was movies or media, magazines? Like, what were your examples of what a woman should be doing for her skincare and how she should look and work out and dress?
I had like a deep obsession with the Olsen twins for the longest time.
Okay.
And I'd have to actually go back and like think about the years of that. And then I had my Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like that. Clueless was a big one. And then would roll into like the OC, Gossip Girl. That's maybe more like late teens into early 20s, where I'm seeing again like skinny, beautiful, like Marissa from the OC. She was the size of a beanpole. She was very tall but very thin. And I went through that phase, and it was more so in university. So I would have been 18, let's call it like 18 to 23. And I also started university in 2 weeks after my brother had taken his life. So I had moved to Toronto to go to university. He lived in Toronto, and he took his life early August of 2004. And I moved to the city last week of August 2004. So I think that definitely also played. I feel like I had like a little cocktail of what contributed to my eating disorder was probably some deep grief of trying to navigate this transition of being without my brother, who I had a great relationship with, starting at a new school and, navigating now, like I even had to dress myself. I used to wear a uniform. Now I had to pick out cool clothes to hopefully attract new friends and make new friends and complete different styles of homework and get a part-time job to earn some money. And so I think all of that collectively together, plus my industry was fashion. So I was always surrounded by fashion magazines, fashion shows, what I would consume in TV and movies. And skinny was what I was attracted to. And
Sure.
that sat with me for a number of years, to the point where I think it would have been by the 4th year of university. And I was very functioning. And I mean, then also as a student, I was like, I'm not going to go and spend $60 on a lunch for myself. I'm going to probably go and get a coffee and like a little protein bar. And that'll be more than enough for me. And I'll have carrot sticks for dinner.
Yeah.
But by my 4th year of university, I remember my 3 close friends and my mom had sat me down and were like, all right, we need to have a little chat.
And as you were talking, I was thinking a couple things going on. One, the programming. So you can't help but absorb what you see the most, So when I was in college, I was getting better, and I went from 95 pounds to maybe 100 by the time I went away to school. And I was around other kids from other parts of the world. And I remember one woman said to me, or, a fellow student, and she's like, Morgan, where I'm from, if we were this skinny, our families couldn't afford food. We would be shunned for being poor, and like something was wrong with you and your family versus, being rounder and more voluptuous and healthy. And I was like, whoa. So that was like a paradigm shift too. Not enough to create, like really change it for me, which obviously going back to my light switch moment at the strip club, and it did help. And so I think that for you, you were consumed, especially in the fashion industry. I can't even imagine, the expectations, and then also losing your brother, which I'm very sorry to hear that. I saw that somewhere and I thought, should I ask her about that?
Oh, I'm super open about it.
Okay. Was he younger or older?
Older.
Okay. Oh, and at that time, everything is new for you and there's not a lot of control in your life. And I don't know about you, but being able to control what I ate was very empowering, or it felt powerful. Yes. Yeah, it was like, I can control. This is something I have a handle on. I get to decide what this, does that resonate?
Oh my gosh, does it ever? Even when you talked about having the yellow legal notepad, I was more of a notebook girl, but I would write down everything. And that discipline of having to know what I'm putting down on those papers, that if it was too much, if it felt like too much, well, then I would scale back and I wouldn't have very much. And so there was probably a period where I was consuming like 500 to 800 calories a day. And now, as someone who is more mindful, I say, of what I consume, but more so like I don't want to have seed oils, and I'm not going to go to McDonald's. That's not how I eat. So I'm aware of what I consume to ensure that they are whole foods and nutrient rich. But back then I was going for teeny tiny calorie size. Like there was times where I would go and I would get a Tim Hortons. It was on the campus, and it was a like half coffee, half hot chocolate, and I would get like 2 Timbits. How the hell is that nutritious? For someone who wants to be skinny, why would I choose that as my breakfast or my lunch? That's such garbage. But I was able to know, like, okay, there's this many calories in the Timbits, and there's like 10 calories in the coffee. Okay, so I can like write that down. So the choices I was making was not doing any service to my body. Nothing about it was fuel. So it's
no, and even the calories. What's that?
I said it makes me sad thinking back to that version of Allie. That I was like, I wasn't taking care of myself at all. And who was I doing that for? Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, it would mean so much to me if you took a few seconds and shared this on social media, sent it to a friend, or left a 5-star review. There is power in community, and I'm so grateful to have you part of mine.